Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I've been featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2658, and that one is Psychedelic Shack by the Temptations. And this was released in 1969. I think it became a hit in 1970 early the following year. It was also released on their album entitled Psychedelic Shack, which came out in 1970. And here's a picture of the Temptations. They were a very big Motown group, and I already featured one of their songs. I think it was "Runaway Child, Running Wild" back at number 2908. So I'm not gonna go through their whole history. They had many, many hit songs. They were one of the biggest acts by Motown acts of all time. So I'm not going to go over their hits, but I will talk about the song "Psychedelic Shack." This was kind of a turnaround for them. I mean, they had a turnaround, I'd say, at the beginning of 1969. They started out just kind of like a hit making band, like most of the other big bands of Motown, that included, I guess, the Supremes and Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder and all those guys, Martha Vandellas. They were a big music machine company, kind of, out of Detroit. They were founded by Berry Gordy Jr., I believe, in 1958, and they had huge hits. And they kind of I think what Motown did was they kind of legitimized black music among a white audience in the late 50s and early 60s, and they kind of, I think their music, most of it at least, until probably the late 60s, was kind of wannabe white music. That's kind of how I see it. I mean, maybe some of you guys may disagree with me, but it wasn't what I call soul music. But I think it became more soul music by around 68, 69. Particularly the Temptations. They went through a pretty dramatic transformation. I'd say around the beginning of 1969. I heard they were influenced by Sly and the Family Stone. By the way, I think Sly and the Family Stone is widely regarded as the kind of the originators of what became known as psychedelic soul. I mean, psychedelic rock was really popular already. I think that mainly became popular in the Summer of Love, 1967, San Francisco, the Haight-Ashbury scene, along with a bunch of other, psychedelic artists, mostly white artists like Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin and the Doors and all those guys. But I guess the black audience started incorporating into their music as well by the end of the '60s. And by the way, yeah, I think I already showed you a picture of the cover of the album. Maybe this one's a little cooler to look at than the single, so I guess I'll stick with this. And I guess I just want to say a little bit more about this particular song, "Psychedelic Shack." It was written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong. You guys might know Barrett Strong. He was one of the original Motown artists. I don't think he had a lot of hits, but he was mostly known for his first big hit, which was called "Money, That's What I Want," which I believe came out in 1959. It was one of the earliest Motown hits. That one's coming up much, much later on my list, by the way. Great song, in case you don't know it. I think the Beatles even covered it. And Norman Whitfield, I mean, I guess he was one of the big Motown producers along with Berry Gordy Jr. And, he produced this song, Psychedelic Shack, as well as many other songs, including I think he might have produced all the songs on this album. I'm not sure. Pretty sure he did because I think he produced the album Psychedelic Shack, which featured several other hits, I understand. I never owned this album, but I know it featured the Temptations' version of War. I think War, I don't know who wrote War. Maybe it was Norman Whitfield along with, that's the thing about Motown. I mean, Motown was kind of a music machine, and I don't think most of the Motown artists themselves wrote their own songs. I know Smokey Robinson did. There were some very innovative singers and songwriters among Motown, but I think most of them weren't songwriters, as far as I know. Most of them recorded songs by other artists, and I don't know. I mean, there's a lot more I could say about that. The Funk Brothers. I mean, I think it was the Funk Brothers that actually wrote most of the big Motown hits, but nobody even knew who they were for a really long time, which I think was very unfortunate. But anyway, enough of that. So yeah, Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong wrote this song, and Whitfield produced it. And there was also a version, like I mentioned, there was a version of War, which became a hit for Edwin Starr in 1970. Probably the angriest anti-war song ever written, I think. And that one is coming up on my list. Great song, in case you haven't heard it. But anyway, I guess that pretty much says every. Oh, yeah, I guess I have to talk about the song, what it's about. I mean, pretty self-descriptive about a psychedelic shack. And I don't know if this song influenced Love Shack by the B-52s, which was a big hit of theirs in 1989. That one's also coming up much, much later on my list, by the way. About a kind of a cool shack that these hippies hang out in. I guess for this song it was black, African American hippies, or the kind of people who embrace the psychedelic soul, and they're singing about cats singing the blues, and they're singing about how millionaires and kings and queens visit the psychedelic shack, which is kind of interesting because if you look at kind of the counterculture of the late 60s, even though it got started by hippies who were mostly poor, mostly struggling, mostly just wanted not to get involved in Vietnam and wanted to kind of form their own alternative society, which most of them actually failed doing. And another thing that happened with all that was there was a lot of money that went into this whole movement. Don't forget that. I mean, the record industry for one, they made millions of dollars on capitalizing on the psychedelic movement, the counterculture movement, which I think was a little bit hypocritical in a lot of ways. But that's what happened. So I guess that's why millionaires and kings and queens would go out and do their thing at the psychedelic shack. And for all I know, Donald Trump might have been one of them too. But let me tell you, he's not a hippie at all anymore. But anyway, that's enough about that. Thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.